a company or a team of 7 to 8 people, all of them highly skilled, they lose per year around 50,000 euros.
Today we have the guest, Calin Sas, who will speak about himself and why he is joining Solar Explain as our new lecturer. So Calin, thanks for being today with us. Can you introduce yourself shortly?
Originally, I'm from Romania, but I spent 10 years in France and now where I studied, and now I'm living and I'm working in the Netherlands and also with plenty of companies from across the world. I joined Solar in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. Working in Solar was okay because we go to sites that were not affected. So I've been working in operations for more than 4 years, and for the past 3 years I've been a technical asset manager at several companies. And now since last year I'm a founder of Solar Notions that provides training, consulting, but also we developed a small product that would definitely help everyone working in solar service.
So how did you decide to become the founder of the company? So it means that you identified some kind of problem in the market. How it went?
We've seen recently that there has been a lot of support in rolling out solar installations, which meant from module manufacturers, inverter manufacturers to EPC companies that construct a lot. However, what is frequently underestimated in when they make the business case or when they make the plan is the operational part. It takes 6 months to a year to build, but then the plants are destined to operate for 15 years. Solar is a new industry. We're still having the pains of growth, products that evolve very fast. So there's not enough maturity in the industry to have some stability. So putting those together, you get an operational phase with a lot of challenges. And my challenge as I was working in O&M and also that I'm working today was the fact that the amount of work, the complexity of work, and also the intensity of work, because let's not forget we need to keep pushing solar into the grid as smartly as possible, was not coupled with the capacity to deliver on that. That created frustration, and in some cases it even goes as far as burning out the people that work in the service. And unfortunately I experienced that, several of my peers experienced that. So that was let's say the core frustration from which I said we need to do something about this industry. And then we started to look, okay, what is the problem? Why can we not scale? Why knowledge is not there? And we came to the realization that there are not enough people that have the right skills to operate in solar. Because operating in solar, it is at its core mainly electrical engineering, and you need good electricians, but it's not just that. You have communication systems, because now we want to have real-time data, and we also want to control when prices are negative or when there's a problem on the grid. And also we have mechanical installations that need to resist wind. With the climate change, we've seen far more aggressive storms in Europe. That also means that you need to understand how to keep tight your PV installation. We need to train the people better, and we need to offer training to newcomers to the field. And newcomers, most of them, they're not from solar degrees. Those things are very, very rare. They're only appearing right now. And some of them come from parallel industry. And we saw a lot of people from railroad, from construction, from automotive that wanted to break into solar, but didn't have the specific adaptation of electrical engineering or just solar specific knowledge on inverters and modules. So that was the first thing that for me was important to solve as a problem. The second problem was, okay, we bring a lot of competent people together. We assume that we trained them. We have already people with experience, but still the amount of manual labor, the degree of automation and the awareness of the automation is very low if we compare it with the software development industry that actually they develop the tools. We cannot churn more people than we do. We need to also to look at technology to help the service and the operations part. Because at the end of the day, the service business in solar is a people business. You need to help and to empower the people, and you cannot just throw more people at the problem to solve it. In that regard, I created a product that is what we call it, a Solar Notions OS. So this is a platform that manages the operations and maintenance and the technical asset management service. It goes from creating the work tickets that go into the field. It has an app behind it. And then all the way to the reporting. And the best thing about it is that it cuts the long and tedious lines of communication. You do it real time, collaboratively. As a technical asset manager, I wouldn't want to be asking the technician, hey, did you fill up your ticket? Because I don't need to. With the solution that I created, I can see that in real time. Yeah, those are 2 out of 3 pillars. And then of course, there's a third pillar. We're very lucky in Europe that we have an industry that is starting to mature. So we have the best practices. I think there is a gap between what we know as an industry to be best practices in operations and maintenance, technical asset management. Unfortunately, it's not because people who have O&M companies or EPCs that operate for the 2 years the assets don't want to, is that they're so busy because they're few and they do not have the time to integrate those practices. And a lot of those practices are common sense, and sometimes they are low-hanging fruit. That's the third thing that I do is I help O&M and EPCs or independent power producers integrate those best practices in their processes and in the way that they tailor their service, coupled with training and with a product that can carry that, in order to make more use out of the people that they have and be able to fulfill the very, very tight O&M contracts that they're under.
I would call it like a shortcut to better results in the market, because what we at Solar Explain, we see that many companies are like doing the same processes. They are reinventing the bicycle again and again themselves in parallel, and they cannot talk with each other because they are competitors in most cases. So we, together with you, with other lecturers, we can become the expertise hub, and we can share this information and knowledge to provide a shortcut to better market outcomes. So I think that this service is very, very necessary, but maybe you have some calculations on that already or not yet.
To give you an example, the best practice is when you have, classical example, an inverter down. In most contracts, what you would find would be between 1 and 3 days of response time. That means you get the alarm. The alarm is usually in real time. You figure that alarm out within 2-3 hours. Already between monitoring, planning, field service, you have 1 to 3 days that you cannot change if they're working in the same system. If they're not working in the same system, you need to add at least half a day for the transition of the information from one person to the other along the value chain. And then where, in my experience, I see the biggest bottleneck is, okay, the job is done, the report is in, but the main stakeholders, meaning the management, technical asset management, they need to know that capacity has been restored. They don't get that information on time, or they need to spend considerable amounts of energy. And we're speaking here about between a day to a week. There's the obvious loss in you cannot plan your energy, for example, if you don't have the right information. But then there's a loss that is very, very hard to identify, but in the end, you're gonna get the bill. First, it creates inefficiency. Doing a lot of multitasking at the same time, a company or a team of 7 to 8 people, all of them highly skilled, they lose per year around 50,000 euros. In Western Europe, that's the salary of one person. So there is a real cost. There is a real cost behind it. And then when you are in O&M, which is a business with very low margins because nobody thinks about the OPEX, then those costs become even more significant, because then it translates into second time fixes and you want to fix things the first time. I'm on a mission to cut down on those costs while keeping the mental health up. There are 2 dimensions to that. Engineers like me who are in middle management, they do share. They're not afraid of sharing. They don't have the time to share. They don't have the capacity to share. And that's where the problem is. They don't want to reinvent the wheel. They want to do something better, but it's very rare that they get the space to actually do it. And it's not because their management may not be willing to. It's just because as an industry, everything is super stretched. I found it very interesting about Solar Explain is that you bring together these people who may work for competitors, and you create a space where, okay, you're in this together, let's upgrade as an industry. And I also have this belief that there are things on which we are competitors. It's just a normal way of the market, but there's so many things on which we should collaborate. We should exchange knowledge, because if you build a bad installation somewhere and it catches fire, they will not know the name of the company. They will remember solar panels caught fire, inverters caught fire. And then it really looks bad on our industry that still needs a lot of support to grow. I believe that many service companies today have a real pain. And in those companies, there is a champion that says, I can feel the pain, I can see the pain in what we do, and we need to make a change. I would say empower that person to take things one step further and go from frustration to action. It takes between half a year and a year. So it's a long road that would require commitment, but also what is good is that we have the solution on how to follow that roadmap. Luckily for us, the information is there. We have it. It's just putting it together. And that's where Solar Explain and Solar Notions, I see that we can teach them how to do it and accompany them along the way. Because the worst thing is to tell to someone, you have to do it on your own. I did it on my own. It was frustrating, and I ended up running away from O&M because I couldn't. And I don't want this also to happen to other people, because right now the industry is going from building a lot to operating a lot. And that means you're strategic. You're not just a cool new industry. You're strategic right now. It's a different ballgame. So we need to know how to play that. On different segments of what Solar Notion provides, there are competitors. There are several companies that provide consulting or technical advisory for that matter on the operational phase. There are companies that provide training. I'm happy that there is competition on that, because the more competition it is, the market matures, and also the quality of the output will mature. The market is aware of this void that needs to be filled out. It's great for the industry because you have a choice. 4 years ago, when I started in O&M, I didn't have much of a choice. Most of the software was built in-house. And when you build in-house with just maybe 1 or 2 developers, you cannot provide the good product because your focus is not on the product. I think it's good to outsource let's say the development part up to a certain degree, but what you don't want to lose are 2 things: your expertise and also your internal culture. So the challenge is also to foster and preserve if a culture is good. And that's where I was really focusing on that when choosing on which platform to build the solution. We made the platform so flexible in terms of flows that it has to work for you, and you have the power to tune it to your needs. I would first advise them to be ready for a very intense ride. It's going to be a lot of time on the road for technicians and for engineers. It's going to be a lot of time in front of the computer doing things very, very fast. Take the opportunity when you join the industry to read a lot, ask a lot of questions, because information is there, but help is on the way, right, Julia? I'm very active on LinkedIn, so send a connection request. I'm open to talking to everyone, and also they can follow the company at solarnotions.com, which is the small website that we're putting together.